Welcome to the Pineapple Pin Up the Hot Wife Life podcast. On today's episode, I know it's exciting. I'm going to recap a party, and then I'd like to talk about some of the more intimate intimacies. This is my third time trying to record this particular audio, and the reason is it's very hard to tell a linear story. Uh, in this particular instance, it's just too much interchanging of partners. So instead of going linear, I'm going to go individual. To give you some background, this was a party at the end of October 2024. So obviously it was Halloween themed. The host and maybe a few women actually read the brief and showed up in costume. I fudged on the side of costume. Like, it wasn't quite a costume. I just put on a very, very fancy dress, and my husband put on very fancy clothes. And we kind of went in a fancy couple mode. The dress I was wearing was fucking stunning. It was purple and it was tied as a halter. So my entire back and sides were bare, and with just these strings hanging down in the back, it was really beautiful. Or at least I thought so. And sometimes that's really all that matters. So the evening started as it usually does. We showed up. I brought macaroni and cheese because one of the things that is going to come out about me, if it hasn't already, is that I love to cook. I love feeding people. I love yummy noises. I love it all. With this particular group, I have a reputation for my macaroni and cheese, and so I brought that with me because it was requested. We got there fairly a little bit late for us. Normally, we're one of the very first ones there, and so the host was actually kind of worried we weren't coming when we didn't show up until 20 past the starting hour. But we sat around and we chatted. The first gentleman that I played with was OG. Now, in the past, I've had some issues and I aired them, that it was very disrespectful the way that he had come at me at a party where he'd been giving consent once to touch me, and then all of a sudden he was taking liberties with that. After play, he was coming up to me and just touching me possessively, and that is something that I was kind of offended by. So when I showed up to this party and he was there was some worry that there was going to be that interaction. But let me just tell you, it did not happen. He was very respectful. He asked me to play. We played, and that was the extent of his interaction with me. But let's talk about how we played, shall we? I mean, because you guys aren't here to hear the glossed over version. What can I say about OG other than he has a massive dick? And sometimes when he does this maneuver, okay, so we start, he does all the right things, he gets the waterfalls going, and he does this thing, and it was kind of annoying because he kept doing it right as I was about to come, where he'd pause and then push his dick all the way in so that it would stretch me, so that it would fill me to capacity and stretch me past my limits. And that is, it's very hard to use the word painful in that scenario, but it is adjacent to pain. It's adjacent because it is a delicious, lovely, stretching pain. It's like vagina yoga, if you will. It's But it's intense, and it can be very intense when there's no preamble to it. So, but he kept doing that at these moments when I was about to come, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard Neil Brennan's comedy, but he does this thing where he talks about when a girl says, "I'm coming," he maintains his pace, maintains his depth, and maintains everything about his stroke. Because the reason that a girl is coming is because you're doing what you're doing. When she's about to come and you stop doing what you're doing, she stops doing what she was doing. So, if you haven't listened to Neil Brennan, do so. Anyway, so he kept stopping right at these moments when I felt like I was going to be going on this journey. And I get that sometimes guys will pause the rhythm when they feel like they're getting too close, but I don't care. I mean, I don't care. I need what I need, and you're stopping me from getting it. Just a little forewarning. And if you are having that moment where you're like, if I keep going at this rhythm and depth and pace and everything, it's I'm going to blow. You could always say that. You could always say it, because I got to tell you, it's really hot. How much do you love it when a woman says, "I'm going to come"? I got to tell you the same thing. Okay. We love it because you're going to come because of me. Oh my God, that's so flattering. Seriously. Like, it feels so good you're going to come. That's fantastic. Good note. Um, and then if, we're kind of in the middle and we don't want that to happen, we'll say, okay, ooh, slow, pause, stop. Don't do that. But it's still really lovely to hear. Anyway, back on track. So he was pressing deep inside me, and literally this guy was fucking me. We were crossways on the bed, so we weren't head to toe, we were side to side. And my head ended up hanging off the side of the bed, and I was holding onto the wall to keep me on the bed. And that's basically how most of these nights go, where we don't end up in the bed the way the bed was designed to be in, and that's going to come into play later. But I brought my super absorbent towel from home because my husband and I have learned that the hotel towels cannot keep up with like wanna come fuck me. They just can't. So that was my experience with OG. And as soon as we stopped playing, he was like, "Thank you." And we were like, "Yay." And then he went and spoke to somebody else for the entire party before he and that young lady left. So next up, let's talk about the cannoli. So there's a very small Italian gentleman who has been to two of these parties that I know of. And the reason that I know that he's been to two of these parties is because the first party that he went to, he bogarted the punch bowl. He literally, I've told you about this, he literally for an hour and a half monopolized me when I was the only girl playing at a fuck party. There was a line, there were literally men lined up around the room waiting for a turn, and he would not get off. And I'm not entirely sure if I'm having orgasms, if I'm sometimes what is my obligation here? So anyway, um, that was my first experience with the cannoli. Um, this time he was there and he's fucking me while I'm doing two hand jobs at once. And he does sorry, he does this thing that I like to call the leprechaun bounce, where he spreads his knees wide, but he's on his tiptoes and um his ass is on his heels, and then he just sort of bounces from that position. It's very interesting, and he's trying to get enough traction to do the deep pounding thing, but I don't know that he has. Anyway, the point is that he does that position quite a bit, and he does other positions as well, and he likes to control my movements by putting his body parts on top of like he'll put his leg on my thigh to keep it from moving and try to pin me that way, like, and then wishbone me the other way. It's all very interesting, and and mind you, I was having fun. I was having a good time. I was getting off. I was doing all the things, but I wasn't doing the waterworks, I think, the way that he had experienced the first time. And he was a little manic to make it happen. So a couple of times this time he was very respectful and kept offering other people a chance. And so after one particular incident where there was so much spray, he came back and tried to replicate what had just happened. And I think his frustration level at the inability for him to create the waterworks was making him a little bit extra bouncy. So he's doing the leprechaun bounce, and he's putting his leg on mine, and he's doing everything he can. And mind you, I'm coming, but I'm just not giving him the waterworks. So I'm holding on to two dicks, totally distracted by the fact that the cannoli, like I'm in a zone at times where it's like I have things going on. Meanwhile, one of the guys whose dick I happen to be massaging is pinching my nipple to the point that I actually have to tell him, "Stop fucking pinching me, you dumbass." And so that kind of throws everybody off their game. What's happening? But the cannoli did not stop. He pounded me all the way through that particular exchange. It was very interesting, very fun. Um, so mind you, it must have been 6 or 7 different times that the cannoli came back and kept waiting for me to come out of rest periods so that he could come back. The next guy I want to talk about is Junior. Okay, seriously. Junior was there, and the reason I call him Junior is because he was very young, in his 20s, and it was his first party, and it was very apparent that this was his first party. He is the one who was pinching my nipple to the point that I had to tell him to fucking stop. Like, there is a limit to how much a woman's body is like like if you're distracting me with the level of pain you're giving me, it's too much. Like like I can understand enhancing, but that was just like nails in the skin pinching. So once I got that nipped in the bud, he continued to stand next to me looking for things like an eager puppy. Um several times. Okay. All right. So at one point, I'm on the bed. I'm crosswise. He is standing at the crown of my head. So he's standing as I'm laying down, basically at the top of my head, looking straight down my body. And I can see his dick wandering into the field of view as he leans forward. And then he kind of pulls back, and then he kind of comes forward, and then he kind of comes back, and he kind of comes forward further. And pretty soon it's pretty apparent that he wants me to put his dick in my mouth. But from that angle, for me to put his dick in my mouth, I have to disconnect my neck from my skull, set my head on top, and then let him in. Or he has to bend his dick like a straw into my mouth and cover my nostrils with his balls. At which point, I suffocate. And I mean, I am all for breath play, but there comes a moment when that's just necrophilia. I mean, seriously, John, like that. And I looked at him and I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, I want you to suck my dick. And I said, from that angle, are you trying to kill me? Are you trying to suffocate me? What is going on here? And he goes, oh, I didn't think about it. So he crawled around to the side and I roll over onto my side while someone is fucking me. To give him better access. Now, I'm not quite fully on my side, but I'm on my back and side. And my husband is sitting in the chair at the end of the bed. He's sitting at a desk. Now, I'm going to give you the lay of this hotel room. So it's a suite. So there's a living room and a dinette and then a bathroom. And then you come through a set of doors. And then there's a closet, 2 queen beds, a dresser, a TV, a desk, and a chair. The 2 queen beds are on the right side, the closet, the dresser and TV, and then the desk are on the left-hand side. There's space between each item, but not tons of it. So I am on the queen bed closest to the desk. My husband is sitting in the desk chair. So he crawls up onto the bed. I'm basically facing my husband with this gentleman between us. I start sucking his dick, and my husband says, "Good girl." The way my husband knows I like to hear "good girl." And I I'm happy about it. But Junior takes that as a cue. And he says, "Good girl. Suck daddy's dick. Suck daddy's dick." Um, sorry. Sorry. I don't know Junior's real name. I've never met Junior before this moment. When his dick was in my hand was the first time I'd ever seen him. So when he crawls on the bed, sticks his dick in my mouth and says, "Suck daddy's dick," I'm literally trying very hard not to laugh on his cock because I'm sorry, daddy's not a moniker you give yourself to a stranger because you never can tell what their issues are, where they're coming from. Because if they have legitimate, honest to God daddy issues, that could be a real trigger, son. A real trigger. Okay? So, like, if you've heard that in the past, in your childhood, it may not be something that you necessarily want to hear in this moment. And he was so green that he didn't seem to understand that if you're going to do that, you should negotiate it first. And I'm telling this to all the guys out there, okay? If you're going to use something as, now mind you, I don't have a problem with it. I'm good with it. But I do know a thing or two about it, okay? So I find daddy to be one of those monikers that somebody has to really, really earn. They have to really earn that affinity, that authority. Now, suck sir's dick, suck your master's dick, any of that stuff, because that's all. But suck daddy's dick, that is dangerous and completely laughable. Like, literally took me out of the moment where I'm sucking this guy's dick. And then I'm like staring at him like, what's wrong with you? Anyway, so he, young Junior, played the daddy card in a way that I found so funny and so humorous because of all the people at that party, he was least likely to be voted my daddy. Least likely to be voted my daddy. Anyway, um I'm sorry. It may not be funny to anybody else that this tiny child of a man is using that phraseology to a woman who's obviously old enough to be his mother. But if he, okay, I'm okay with daddy, but don't ever fucking call me mommy. I don't like that. It's one of my personal boundaries and I'm stating it out there for all the world. Don't do it. It is um for me it is very emotionally revolting. Um so anyway, back to the subject. But at least he didn't go there. And that was good. And then let me see. So I sucked him off several times because he kept coming back like over and over and over again to stick his dick in my mouth, which, you know, my mouth was there, so that's cool. Now let's talk about the drooler. The drooler. Okay, so at one point the cannoli said, "Hey, do you want to turn?" Because he was trying to not bogart the punch bowl because he'd been put on blast for doing that in the past. And he was trying very hard to be amenable to the fact that there were tons of people there. So he offered my pussy to a gentleman, and the gentleman came over and says, "I only eat pussy. I don't fuck." And I said, "That's fine. But if you want me to come, you need to use fingers inside of me because I won't come to a little gnawing on the clit. I won't do it. It's not, it's, you don't know what's going on with the nerve endings that you're playing with most of the time to understand when you're getting me close and when you're not, because it's a tricky game. So he went down on me, ignored everything I said about the fingers, and literally proceeded to drool on the slip and slide. Just cover it with spit. And I mean, there was one maneuver that he was using that was a little bit interesting. It was kind of like a fish lip, um, with some manipulation. And that was basically the only thing that was even really slightly zingable. Um, Everything else was just sort of lost in translation. And it literally just felt like he was drooling on something that was already extraordinarily wet. And after a while, I just had to tap him on the head and say, okay, thanks, bye. Because I can't, I get very impatient for that. I get too impatient. And it's something that I've said over and over again. I'm not super fond of oral because there's very few people who do it the way I need it done. And I got to tell you, you can be great at cunnilingus with this woman and be a nightmare to this woman, because our bodies are different, our nerves coalesce differently, and our needs for orgasm down there are different between each one of us. There are some women who are strictly clitoral. There are some that are strictly G-spot. There are some that need a combination of the two. There are some that can do it with either, but only half measure. It's there's way too many variations on nerve ending placement within a woman's body for you to be universally good at it. Now, you can be dedicated to the craft and you can try and, listen and hear if you're giving the right stuff, but it's very hard to be universally great at this. Anyway, back to the subject. I played with A, and he was having some trouble, but he's a very sweet guy, and we ended up like chit-chatting, and he was actually the one who was fucking me while Junior was trying to suffocate me. And then let's talk about the highlight of the evening. Ray is a Middle Eastern man who did the I have no idea what happened. He has a fantastic dick, and he used that fantastic dick on me at such an angle. Now, mind you, I am crosswise on the bed, closest to my husband. My head is towards the window. Ray is standing between the beds. He has my right leg down on the bed and my left leg on his shoulder. I am bent towards that. I'm cocked at that kind of angle with my back. My husband is now maybe 6 or 7 feet away from us. And Ari starts to fuck me, and it starts to get wet, and it starts to get very wet, and he is pounding me through the wetness, and the wetness is coming up, and it is like a sprinkler. It is spraying all over the room. I'm being waterboarded. My husband is being waterboarded. The curtains are being waterboarded. It is getting everywhere, and it is not stopping. It was 3 to 4 minutes of complete monsoon rain showers across the end of that bed, because that man knows how to fuck me. He's very good at fucking me. He has a great dick. He is kind of funny, and we have very good rapport with one another. And he's very, the only thing is he's very touchy-feely and very like cuddly, and I'm not that way. So that's the only part where we differ. But when he puts his dick in my mouth, it's fabulous. When he puts his dick in my hand, it's fabulous. When he puts his dick in my pussy, it's fabulous. And we decorated that room with the sprinkler. Like, it was insane. It covered the end of the bed. It got on the desk. It got it got on my husband. It was everywhere. It was in my face. It was like, there was no hiding from this particular rain cloud that was, and it was magnificent. Oh, it was so good. But that was a recap to the party that I went to on Saturday night. And I kind of felt a little bad that I hadn't done more in the costuming department. Because if I'd done more in the costuming department, if I'd been more on point with the party atmosphere, I think it would have added a layer of dimension to the evening, a layer of fun to the evening that I don't know if I missed out on. I had somebody bring up a question about kissing, and I know that I brought it up myself in the past about kissing. Um, my husband is very aware of my idiosyncrasies. He's very aware of the very unemotional connection I have to the sexual acts. I cannot escape, however, the intimacy of kissing. And the intimacy of kissing is something that, if I don't know you well, is going to distract me. It's going to itch my brain. Okay. It's going to sit in there, and it's going to try to balance itself out with some of the things that my brain is known to do. I'm not great at that. I'm not great at kissing for the sake of kissing. I'm not great at, I have to be very, very connected to you in order to enjoy kissing, to enjoy that. It's the one thing I find emotional about sex. And I don't know why, but it's kind of a limit for me. Now, you can do friendly pecks, but I'm not going to do full makeout sections with probably anyone other than my husband, or maybe a bull. But like, mostly if I'm kissing a bull, it's a momentary, fleeting kiss to connect, to let him know that I see him and that he's like, I will kiss Jeff and I've kissed Josh, but it's not something that I'm good at disconnecting the pieces of. That one is the one that trips me up. I mean, put a dick in any hole I got and I'm okay. It's not an intimate act for me. It's not an emotional act for me. It's more of a workout session, or vagina yoga, if you will. So for me, that's not on the same thing. But when you're kissing, it is entirely too emotional for my self to be super comfortable with. And I don't know what that says about me, and I don't really care. I just happen to know the truth about myself. And that is, in those moments, kissing is not something I would prefer to do. Um, I need a level of familiarity to get to the point where I can kiss and have it be anything other than a me shying away from whatever's happening. So I don't know if that's an answer to the question, but my husband is actually, he does enjoy kissing me and I do enjoy kissing him. So it's, and I don't know how he feels about me kissing other people. Probably something I should talk about with him, but I think as long as he knows I feel comfortable, he's okay with it. So it's there. That's the balance. That's the thing. That's what I'm balancing on my end of the spectrum. Thank you so much for listening to the Pineapple Pinup Hot Wife Life podcast. I went I went a little long on the party description, so I'm not going to give you any asinine background on some topic I find fascinating. I know you're going to terribly miss it, but if you need to get a hold of me or want to talk about or want me to talk about a specific subject, please do not hesitate to hit me up. You can find my Insta on on the page, on the show description page, and you can find me at pineapplepinuppod@gmail.com if you want to send me an email. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week.